and welcome to this week's News Desk with me, Chris Stafford, and Nancy Gillen. This is Season 4, Episode 35, and today is Monday the 12th of September. And Nancy, before we get into the stories of the week, I want to acknowledge the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, because as an expat living across the pond, and you there in a different generation growing up with the monarchy, I'm curious as to how this has impacted you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I think living here, it's been quite a strange, I think, 4 or 5 days since she passed. And yeah, I think obviously something that no one has really experienced before, especially obviously my generation. Like, we've always known the Queen for my whole life, so I don't think anyone really quite knew what to do or how to act. Yeah, obviously just quite a sad mood around, and I suppose on the day itself and kind of the weekend, and I mean there's been a few events cancelled this week as well, kind of quite, out of respect to her, so quite a, I suppose, a mournful atmosphere around. Yeah, but it is been very weird because yeah, it's something completely unprecedented in my lifetime. So yeah, very strange.
And you mentioned that a cancellation of events, understandably, when something of this significance and magnitude happens, then it does change the daily schedule, so to speak, for so many different walks of life, and quite rightly. Obviously, this is our Queen, the monarch, and so. But I think what has been nice, where some sporting events have resumed, and the teams, players have been paying their respects too. It really has been nationwide, a land in mourning and well beyond too. Even though we knew that this day would come, it's going to be a seismic shift in many ways, isn't it? With a king now instead of a queen.
Yeah, I think everything's going to be really different, and it's even tiny little stuff that you don't really consider. But obviously, the Queen's head is on money. It's on stamps. We sing "God Save the Queen" in the national anthem. It's just things like that have always been the same throughout my whole life. Like tiny little things like that are now going to change. It just makes you realise, I suppose, kind of how, obviously she's been around for ages, but just all throughout society, her presence has always been there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be, as you say, there are things from the currency to postage stamps to memorabilia and commemorative memorabilia of the Queen, which now are going to be collector's items. So, there's going to be daily reminders, I think, to all of us of the change and the impact this is going to have on us day to day. So I wanted to acknowledge her, Nancy, because clearly it means a lot to me, having lived through many more decades and always had her there. Just a steady rock. She is really going to be missed. So our respects to the monarchy, and we shall see as we go forward. The changes this will have an impact at sporting events, as you say, such as the singing of the national anthem. Those things are going to take a little while to get used to. It's already a strange thought, isn't it? How I don't know. Do you feel that that the difference?
I think so. Yeah, I think it. Obviously, there hasn't actually been much opportunity for one of those kind of changes to take place, like singing the national anthem or anything like that. But I think like when it does happen, and when you see the first stamp with the King's head and stuff like that, it's gonna be really weird.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. And as we said, a lot of sporting events were cancelled. And I know we may as well go there first with that story, because the one that has been impacted, that you said on the show last week you were going to, was the Marshall Shields fight that had to be postponed on the weekend too. And that was a whole evening of of women's sports. It was a great evening of women's sports there, right? All the card was women's fights, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was gonna be a pretty big event. I think quite historic in the fact that it was an all-female boxing card. I think the day itself as well, so that the Women's Super League, the first match of the season was meant to be in the afternoon, well, to 12:30, and then the boxing match in the evening. So it was going to be quite a big day for women's sport. But yeah, understandably, both events postponed. But the WSL has been confirmed to be starting this weekend, but for the Savannah Marshall's Clarissa Shields fight, they're going to have to wait a bit longer for that. So it's provisionally being postponed to October the 15th, so about a month away. Quite a tricky one, I think. Obviously with the women's football season, they're going to have to reschedule the matches that were meant to be last weekend to another available slot. But I think boxing's quite a difficult one to obviously find a new date for, but for the fighters themselves, you've got to make sure you're the perfect weight, and you kind of have that deadline that you count down to and get yourself ready for. Kind of similar to, I suppose, when we had the Olympics postponed by a year, it's kind of the moving of the goalposts. So yeah, Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields, and all the other female fighters involved as well. Just kind of probably right now working out their plan for the next month and how they stay in, top shape, how they keep the weight that they're meant to be, and how they, I suppose, psychologically go again in a month's time, because it is relatively unprecedented, I think. I know we did have the pandemic when everything got postponed, but nothing was kind of being postponed like a couple of days before. So quite an interesting situation there for them.
Yeah, very, very short term, as you say, and really will affect their fitness. So, yeah, that's a while to wait, and I'm sure you'll be going when that time comes. We've got other stories this week, as is motor racing. We've got some football to cover, eventing, but I obviously want to start with the big news this week. The big event on this side of the pond in New York, was the US Open at Flushing Meadows, and we now crowned a new champion, the last of the Grand Slams of 2022, and that most people will know is Poland's Iga Swiatek. And I have to say, Nancy, watching that, and I know you did too, watching her all tournament, she had not been playing so well, hard court not being her favourite surface. And Jabeur from Tunisia, of course, who she was playing against in those finals, had been playing so well. And I would have put money on Ons. I think I texted you that towards the end of the week, because she had been playing so well. And then when it came to it, Iga saved her best till last, and Ons just was not allowed to play her game. So it was a very interesting matchup when you look at how they've been playing throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I thought it was quite remarkable, actually. I agree. I thought Swiatek throughout the tournament wasn't too impressive, and she was kind of just, I think kind of at a base level, she is head and shoulders above a lot of the other players in the WTA tour. So it was kind of like that alone was getting her through the matches, as opposed to her performances at the time. And there were a few close calls, a lot of players did make it very hard for her. So I agree. I think Jabeur has had a really good tournament, but also season as well, having also reached the final of Wimbledon. So yeah, but Iga was just completely different player, really. She was really, really going for it. I think there was a bit where it looked like she was going to win in straight sets in about 50 minutes to an hour.
Yes, exactly.
Then On kind of brought it back, and it went to a tie break in the second set. So it did get more competitive as it went on, which was great to see, because I was a bit worried that it was going to be extremely one-sided. But yeah, I think Iga Swiatek, when it matters most, she's just, her mentality is just very, very impressive. And yeah, 21 years old.
I think it's the discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has tremendous game discipline. And that's what's so impressive. And that's what she called on. Because if you think about how she came out, she was very nervous.
Yeah.
Before the final, understandably, but she was nervous. She had to deal with that. But it was her core discipline of getting past those nerves very quickly early on in the game and taking control of the flow of the game right? I don't know if you've been coached much in tennis. I was privileged years ago to be coached by a Wimbledon player. And, the mental game, as we know, is just as important as the physical game. And especially when you get to the end of a tournament. And Iga proved how you do that, and the discipline, the mental discipline of doing and taking control of the pace of the game and the nature of the game. And she took it away from Ons, like right away. Like, this is how we're going to play this final, right? It's going to be my type of tennis. And then in the end, there was, as you say, a crack. I think if that first set, the second set had been the first set, we'd have had a very different matchup. And it would have gone to 3 sets, and I think that would have been a real ding-donger if they'd have both played their best game, right? Their best game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was, definitely a bit of a shock to Ons, I think, that she looked a bit shell-shocked, really, in the first set. So, yeah, I think, like you said, it probably would have gone to 3 sets if the whole match had been like the second set. But I think Iga Swiatek's just so impressive. I think so young, has already got 3 Grand Slam titles. But not even the Grand Slams, just her dominance across the whole WTA tour this season. She's won so many of the other tournaments that aren't Grand Slams, which just kind of shows, she's across the board, just constantly winning, and well number 1 as well.
Yeah, and importantly, though, Nancy, on those different surfaces, the surfaces that she doesn't like, she's able to play the game that on the surfaces that she likes and take it to the surfaces she doesn't like. So, very, very impressive. I think it's very exciting, the future of women's tennis. We've said this before, but, we keep watching it with these young players the new players coming along, really taking the sport in a new direction, and I love watching them, and they're really very exciting to watch. And congratulations to Iga and to Ons, because now they're number 1 and 2 in the world rankings, and which pretty much sums up the year they've both had. But what surprised me, Nancy, who has dropped 72 places in the rankings as of today, and that's Emma Raducanu, who lost, of course, early on in the tournament. She's dropped to number 83. So that will just leave her in the shadows a little bit over the winter before the Australian Open in 2023. And hopefully she'll play there. So I think that will give her some room to work on some of the issues that plague her, really, because the potential's there. It just needs time. It needs time to get back to where she was. When you think Carlos Alvarez was 19 years old yesterday when he won the US Open, and Emma was 19 last year.
Yeah, I think she's now, like you said, it's room to reclimb the rankings, and I think maybe a bit more anonymity. Yeah, being anonymous, she's a bit more anonymous now. She's not the US Open defending champion anymore. She can kind of just, maybe the spotlight is slightly off her, and like you said, she can kind of sort what she needs to sort in her own time, at her own pace. So yeah, very, very young. And I think her attitude around, I think, that ranking drop was expected. She basically had to defend her US Open title to not have, and she went out in the first round, so that ranking drop was kind of expected. And she sounds like she's got a good attitude about it. She sees it in a positive way. Still top 100, I guess, which is still for someone her age and her experience level is pretty good. So I'm hoping it kind of gives her what she needs to build on what happened last year, and kind of, she's had a year on the WTA tour now, and hopefully next year she can get a bit further in tournaments, because I think that was the problem. She was playing in tournaments and going out in the second and third round and not being able to build up the fitness that she needs to be competing at the top level. So
that's very true. It reminds me, of players like Jeannie Bouchard is another. I love Jeannie, and I was always very pleased when Chris Evert another of my idols. She became a fan of Jeannie Bouchard as well, and she had a shoulder injury. She got knocked back when she was starting to really develop her game. She had setbacks, and I believe she's coming back now. She's playing and winning again. So
she won her first game in 18 months today. Actually, I saw she's playing at a tournament in India.
I saw that in India. Yep.
That's pretty incredible as well, because I think a lot of people thought she'd retired, to be honest. See her back.
Well, she picked up the microphone, didn't she? She did some commentary, and she's very good at that. But yeah, I just hope she just is able to build her game back up again, because I think she's got a lot of potential. I really like her, and let's hope she can put everything together after such a long break. All right, well, that's all for tennis for a little while. I mean, we'll have more tennis to report on, I'm sure, but last of the Grand Slams for 2022, it always seems to end so early. I think we should have another Grand Slam, in November. Maybe there will be one day, but for now, that's it until the Australian Open. As I said, lots of tennis in between that we will bring you. I want to go back to some eventing, Nancy. Can I talk about eventing now for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Well, the Burghley Horse Trials took place, and we came off air last week, and I said, cannot believe that I forgot to mention Burghley Horse Trials. My sport, that happened last week, and produced another female winner. There were 6 women in the top 10 there at Burghley Horse Trials in Stamford in Lincolnshire in England. It's a major 5-star event, one of 6 in the world at that level. And a lot of riders competing there that will be at the World Championships, which starts this week in Italy. But a shout out to Piggy March. Piggy actually comes from Northamptonshire, my home county. She won that with Vanir Kamira, a very, very consistent combination. So it doesn't surprise me that she won, but it was a lovely, lovely result for her to win that. So congratulations to Piggy. And as I mentioned, the eventing World Championships take place in Pratoni del Vivaro, which is just outside Rome. Starts on Wednesday. Wednesday will be the first veterinary inspection, 2 days of dressage, cross-country on Saturday, and Sunday will be show jumping, as is the usual calendar of events, so the 3-day event. And being an eventing World Championships, we've got so many prospects, Nancy, that could win both the team and the individual titles. So I'm not going to stick my neck out, because there really are so many good ones. Of course, England are always up there. Great Britain, I should say, are always up there. And they have a terrific trainer in Chris Bartle, an old mate of mine. He does an absolutely amazing job with the team. He's been bringing medals home ever since he took over as the team trainer. So I'm hoping for great things, because I don't think the US is going to be winning any medals. I'd be very surprised if they won a team medal, and any more surprised if they won an individual medal. But England, certainly Great Britain, do have a wonderful chance. That we've got so many great rider combinations. So we'll be following that. Starts, as I said, on Wednesday. Now let's talk football, Nancy.
Yeah, always happy to talk football.
All right, do you want to go first? Because since we spoke last week, of course, on the show, we were talking about the friendlies that were happening over here in the US and in the UK with the World Cup qualifiers. You checked that box, and then you went and played Luxembourg. Not that it had any real significance, and you knew it was going to be a pretty easy game for the Lionesses, but you kind of stamped your card, didn't you, 10-0?
Yeah, I mean, it was, like you said, it was a bit of a dead rubber in that neither team could qualify for the World Cup. But I think 10-0 victory, that's always really good for the confidence. A chance to try some new things out as well and kind of get people on the score sheet. I think Beth England in particular would be happy. She scored 2 goals. she didn't actually play a single minute of the Euros. So I think it's obviously good for her confidence to come into the team or the squad and score a couple of goals. And similarly with Nikita Paris as well, who didn't really play much at the Euros. She scored against Austria and then again against Luxembourg. So yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, I think a pretty. I watched it. It was as expected, I suppose, with a team like Luxembourg. Again, no disrespect to them, but they're just a pretty small country with not much resources. And if you look at the world rankings, you would expect an England win. And it was a very dominant performance from them. So yeah, really good to see. Next match is the USA in October, so I think it was a good warm up for that, if anything.
Don't get too cocky over there. Cannot wait for that. October 7th is when the Lionesses will be playing host to the USA in Wembley Stadium. I'm so looking forward to that. Wish I could be there, but I can't be. So I'm going to have to live vicariously through you, and we will have it on I think it's on Fox Sport, so we'll be able to follow it. But yeah, really super fun matchup. No predictions here. I know you'll say England can beat us. Will you actually? Would you say that England can beat us? You probably could now, couldn't you?
I think so. I mean, it's hard to know because I haven't actually watched the US play. I've just kind of heard things, seen teams and watched highlights, but not properly. So it is kind of hard to say, but it is definitely the most confident I've been in this England team that we can beat the US, just purely because, the players we have, the manager we have and the recent success at the Euros. I think it just puts us in a good place to do so. Yeah. But I mean, you never know. It's going to be a really brilliant match. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, certainly will. All right. I want to mention the friendly that we had over here. We played Nigeria again. This time we won 2-1, and they really brought their best game to this. Did you see any highlights of that, Nancy?
I didn't. Not for this one, no.
Well, Rose Lavell scored in the 66th minute, following an own goal, unfortunately, in the 24th minute, which, really was unfortunate. But Uchenna Kanu scored for Nigeria in the 50th minute and really broke our shutout record. But that was a beautiful, beautiful goal. She worked around the defence and it was a beautiful goal and well-deserved. The US had kind of let their guard down for a moment and they took full advantage of it. So that was really, really good goal. So we ended up winning thanks to Rose Lavell. We won 2-1. And as you say, we've got some other internationals that are yet to be scheduled, but the big one will be October 7th over there in Wembley. Now, you've got another football story about Spain and the referees strike. What's that all about?
Yeah, so we didn't have, obviously the start of the WSL here was postponed, and then in Spain the same thing happened, but for quite a different reason. So there's meant to be the launch of a new professional football league over in Spain. So it's rebranded as Liga F, and there's a new governing body in charge of it, the Professional Women's Football League. So yeah, that's kind of all meant to kick off last weekend. I think quite exciting. DAZN, who they're a sport streaming site, had they'd signed a 5-year broadcast deal, so all the matches were going to be on DAZN, and it's all quite exciting. But the matches actually ended up being called off because the referees went on strike last Thursday. They have taken issue with the working and economic conditions. They basically said in a statement that with Liga F being professional, that the women's refereeing, the officiating for the league should also be professional, and that it should be the professional status and payment in line with La Liga, which is the men's Spanish league. So it sounds like, they've made the players are professional and getting full-time wage, but the referees aren't, which must be said is the same in England. So the WSL is a professional league, but the referees are only part-time. So that is kind of not that unusual. Not saying it should be the case, but that also happens here in England. So fair enough to the referees. Have kind of said that they don't really want to take part in the league if they're not getting paid adequately. So they went on strike. What was weird was the LPFF, so the governing body for the league, said that the matches would still go ahead as normal. And in case the referees and assistants didn't appear, the LPFF will proceed to file the corresponding complaints. So essentially all the teams travelled to the stadiums, like the media were there, some fans came along, and they all walked out on the pitch and then just stood around for 30 minutes, and then the game was postponed because clearly the referees weren't going to show up. And they were they all kind of knew that the referees weren't going to show up, but they were still made to act as if the match was going to happen and kind of like still walk out and stuff like that. So I think obviously a frustrating situation. Rinsola Babajide, who used to play for Liverpool but now plays for Real Betis, she put on her Twitter about they had to have a 9-hour coach journey back to Seville from Valencia for a game that they knew wasn't going to happen. So all in all, that's like an 18-hour round trip on a coach. Pretty horrible. So yeah, it seems a bit of a shambles in Spain at the moment, and it's obviously they've said there's this great new professional league, but they're not paying the referees professionally, and that's led to strikes, and it's now seems a bit chaotic, and yeah, who knows when the strike is going to end. But I think if I was the organisers of Liga F at this point, I think you have to realise that you need to give the referees what they want, otherwise literally the matches aren't going to happen without them.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And as we know, Kira Walsh just signed for Barcelona to join her girlfriend Lucy Bronze, and I not the way they wanted to start the season, for sure, or any of the players. But yeah, those two we will watch. That should fortify that team, shouldn't it? Having both of them on their side.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very, very strong team already, and then to have two amazing players. I think Kira Walsh in particular, at the Euros, I think she's always been pretty underrated. Well, yeah, especially as a defensive midfielder, you don't normally get much of the plaudits because you're not really scoring many goals. But I think at the Euros in particular, people realise how brilliant she is, and well deserved with a move to Barcelona. And I believe that transfer made her the most expensive women's footballer ever. I think it was around £400,000. That's obviously in women's football, it's really hard to know. And I think a lot of the transfers that take place in the US, at least, are not normally, the figures aren't publicly disclosed. But from what we know, she did become the most expensive women's footballer, which I think is well deserved, to be honest, because she is a really, really brilliant player.
And yet this is still pennies compared to the men, Nancy. We really, it's all relative, isn't it? Okay, it may be the best in the women's game, but when you put it alongside the men's game, this is peanuts. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic when you see the quality of these players. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting, and it's about time that shifted considerably. And I mean, we talk about equal pay. We've got it in some sports now, and we're getting it more and more so. But there's, oh my goodness, there's a long way to go. And when you think of football or soccer here as one of the mainstream sports, look how far we are and behind the men, and we shouldn't be. We just look at the skill and the quality of the players, and hundreds of them, Nancy, really. I mean, hundreds of players are world-class caliber, right? And, we're talking about record amounts of, less than £500,000. I mean, it's multi-million-pound deals that happen in the men's, right?
Yeah, I know. And I do expect that record to kind of fall quicker and quicker, but it is still absolute. Yeah, it's tiny in comparison to the men's game. And yeah, the money involved is still very small. Yeah,
it's an insult. It really is. And it's time we stopped insulting women who play that caliber of sport. All right, going to get off my soapbox now, and we're going to talk about motor racing, aren't we? We're going to go to Japan. There's a story I picked up about Japan's Miki Koyama. She won the Formula Regional Japan title, and she's still got 3 races to go. But she'll become the first ever woman to win a mixed FIA single-seater championship. There's so many of these stories happening, Nancy. Of women doing great things, especially in motor racing this year, these last few years, I think, and not least of all since the W Series was created. And I want to give a shout out to females in motorsport. You can follow them on Twitter because they post regular news of women on wheels. There's so many great stories. That's where I found this one. But you've got one about the W Series, haven't you?
I do, yeah. So it's a good news story from the W Series with 3 of their drivers, Abby Pulling, Chloe Chambers and Teresa Babikova. They're going to take part in a Formula 3 test later this month, so the 16th and the 17th over in France. This is we talked about that story a few weeks ago where the head of F1 had kind of dismissed the idea of women being in Formula One, but this is quite it's a good move here in that it gives the female drivers the chance to experience what it's like in the FIA single-seater pyramid, learning about the F3 category, the cars used, the different setups, and just the general environment. It's a positive move to see them take part in it, and it should be, if you win the W Series, it should be the next step for the winners. So hopefully having more drivers being involved in the test drives kind of helps that pathway, helps forge that pathway a little bit more. So good news there.
Very good news. Well, good luck to them. Final story, Nancy. The US women have been down in South Africa playing in the Rugby Sevens World Cup Championship down there. But guess who won? Australia are so dominant in the Rugby Sevens. I don't know if you were able to watch any of it, follow any of it on social media, but they won in a thrilling gold medal match against their arch rivals, New Zealand. And unfortunately, the US, they got through to the semi-finals, but they got beaten by France. And I don't know if you've looked at the results, Nancy. When you look at the caliber of teams, right, in these Rugby Sevens and the score lines, really, really convincing wins by so many of these, world-class teams. But it really is, I think, interesting, the score line, because things happen so quickly in Rugby Sevens, don't they?
Yeah, and it's such an end-to-end sport. Like I do really like it. I kind of do prefer it a bit to classic rugby.
To the 15.
Yeah, just because of I like things that are a bit faster, and Sevens is so end-to-end, and it is like incredibly short. And it can just kind of flip on its head quite easily. So it's very entertaining sport. Well,
when you think how good England, all the teams that played there in that World Cup down in South Africa this past weekend, Canada lost to Fiji 53-0. When you think, oh my goodness, Canada must have been a much more inferior team, but they're not. They turned around and beat England 22-7, right?
Yeah,
and then Australia beat England 35-5, and New Zealand, who were in the final, they beat France 38-7, and then in the final, France turned around and beat the USA 29-7. So, the score lines don't really tell the true story, because, as you say, it is so end-to-end. It is such a fast game. It's just so quickly things turn around, and those huge margins, really, I don't always think they reflect the true nature of the game. And I don't know, do you feel that too?
Yeah, I think it does seem, it's like you said, I think with all the teams, the results are so varying that it doesn't seem like it does quite reflect it. But then I suppose that's part of the fun of it, isn't it? It makes it pretty unpredictable.
Yes. I want to give a shout out to Nicole Hiveland, who plays on the US team. She also is their converter. She does their conversion kicks, and she's an awesome player. And she scored, and so did Alona Meyer, and so did Naya Tapa. But Naya got sent to the sin bin in a game that I need to find out what went on there. I need to text her as soon as she gets back here. I think they flew back today. But yeah, Naya finished up in the sin bin. So she won't enjoy that mark against her record. But I need to get to the bottom of that, Nancy. I'll do that before next week if I can find out what happened there. But a shout out to our team making it through to the semi-finals. But England, they got as far as Australia, trouncing them 35-5 there. But they're very, very exciting. I love these Rugby Sevens tournaments. Yeah, we'll keep you posted when the next one comes around. I'll have to find out from Naya when that will be. Anything else this week, Nancy?
Not that I can. I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the start of the WSL on now Friday night. First match is now Arsenal Brighton, which should be a really good game. So yeah, looking forward to that coming back. And everything's kind of been pushed back a bit from last week. So, yeah, that's kind of the main focus of this week, really.
Okay. And you're running. You just came back from a run before you recorded this. So that's always a good thing. I'm cycling. You're running. I'm doing my Pilates. I'm training like crazy, trying to keep fit. So, yeah, it's all good. It's all good, Nancy. We love every minute of it. But... yeah, I think that's it from this side of the pond. Now, no more tennis for a while anyway. And the football is going to be that October 7th game against the UK. They're batting against England, rather, in Wembley Stadium. So we will bring you the build-up to that. Is there anything else that's significant that we're missing here, Nancy? I feel there is. I know the eventing championships, I'll have the results next week, of course, hoping women win there.
I really can't think of anything else, personally. I think that's that. No. We've got everything covered there, yeah.
I think we have pretty much, yeah. All right, well, that's it from Nancy and from me, Chris Stafford, for this week. I hope you'll join us again next week for more news roundup from the world of women's sports. Until then, don't forget to follow us on social media at WiSP Sports, online at wisports.com, and Nancy is at...
I'm at Nancy_Gillen on Twitter, Nancy Gillen _sport on Instagram, and then everything I write is at Give Me Sport Women, which is our Twitter handle is at Give Me Sport W.
All right. Until then, thank you for listening and enjoy your sport.